The rain fell in sheets, blurring the lines of the sleepy coastal town. The storm had rolled in unexpectedly, turning the usually serene streets into a maze of puddles and rivulets. The sky was a dark, ominous gray, and the sound of thunder rumbled in the distance, adding to the eerie atmosphere. Sofia hurried along the deserted street, clutching a basket of unsold pastries. Her footsteps echoed in the empty alleyways, the only other sound being the relentless patter of rain against the cobblestones. She had hoped to sell more today, but the weather had kept everyone indoors. The bakery had been quiet all day. The usual buzz of customers and the warm, inviting smell of freshly baked bread were absent, replaced by the cold, damp air that seeped through the cracks in the door. The storm kept everyone indoors. Windows were shuttered, and doors were firmly closed, as if the town itself was holding its breath, waiting for the tempest to pass. Rounding a bend, she spotted a lone figure struggling beside a sleek silver car. The vehicle looked out of place in the quaint, old-fashioned town, its modern lines stark against the backdrop of historic buildings. He was clearly out of his element. His movements were awkward and he seemed unsure of what to do next, as if the situation was entirely foreign to him.
"Oh, need a hand?" Sophia called out, her voice barely audible over the roar of the rain.
As she approached, she could see the man was tall and well-built. His broad shoulders were hunched against the rain, and he looked up at her with a mixture of hope and desperation. His hair was dark, plastered to his forehead by the rain. Droplets clung to his eyelashes, and he blinked rapidly, trying to clear his vision. He wore a tailored suit that looked comically out of place in the downpour. The fabric clung to his frame, and his polished shoes were now soaked and muddy. He glanced up as she neared, his expression a mixture of frustration and relief. It was clear he had been struggling for some time, and her offer of help was a welcome respite. His eyes, she noticed, were the color of warm honey. They held a depth and intensity that made her momentarily forget the cold and the rain.
My car seems to have chosen the worst possible time to break down. His voice was deep, with a hint of an accent that Sofia couldn't quite place.
"I don't know much about cars like that, but maybe I can call someone for you," Sophia offered, pulling out her phone. She knew the local mechanic, and he was usually good about coming out in emergencies.
My phone's dead. Perhaps you could direct me to the nearest garage. He looked around, as if hoping to spot a sign or a landmark that would guide him.
"There's a storm coming in. It's not safe to stay out here." Sophia glanced up at the darkening sky, the clouds swirling ominously above them. "Why don't you come back to my place? You can call for help in the morning." She gestured towards a small, cozy cottage in the distance, its warm lights a beacon in the storm.
I couldn't possibly impose. He hesitated, clearly torn between accepting her offer and maintaining his independence.
"It's no trouble. Come on, let's get out of this rain," Sophia insisted, opening her umbrella and stepping closer to him, offering him shelter.
He hesitated for a moment longer, then nodded, a flicker of gratitude in his eyes. The decision made, he stepped under the umbrella, and they began to walk together. Together, they hurried through the downpour, Sofia leading the way to her small cottage on the edge of town. The rain continued to fall, but for the first time that day, Sofia felt a sense of purpose and connection. This chance encounter, brought about by the storm, had the potential to change everything. The warmth of the cottage enveloped them as they stepped inside. The chill of the outside world was left behind, replaced by the comforting embrace of the small, rustic home. Sofia hurried to light the fire, the flames casting dancing shadows on the walls. The flickering light brought life to the room, making it feel even more inviting. Her home was small and humble, decorated with hand-me-down furniture and her own colorful paintings. Each piece told a story, a testament to her creativity and resourcefulness. It was a far cry from the world the stranger clearly came from. His tailored suit and polished shoes seemed out of place in the cozy, cluttered space. He stood by the window watching her, his expression unreadable. The contrast between them was stark, yet there was a sense of curiosity in his eyes.
Thank you. You're very kind. His voice was soft, almost hesitant, as if he wasn't used to expressing gratitude.
"It's nothing. What's your name? She asked with genuine curiosity, wanting to know more about the man who had stumbled into her life.
Alex. And you are? He responded with a smile, his eyes softening as he looked at her.
Sofia, she replied, her name sounding almost musical in the quiet room.
He repeated her name softly, as if testing the way it felt on his tongue. There was something intimate in the way he said it, a connection forming between them.
It's a beautiful name. His compliment was sincere, and it made her heart flutter.
She smiled, a blush warming her cheeks. It had been a long time since someone had made her feel this way. He was unlike anyone she'd ever met. There was an air of mystery about him, something that drew her in. His clothes, his manner, even the way he spoke hinted at a life of privilege and sophistication, yet he seemed genuinely interested in her simple life. Yet there was a kindness in his eyes, a vulnerability that belied his polished exterior. It was as if he was searching for something he hoped to find in her. As the evening progressed, they talked. Their conversation flowed easily as if they had known each other for years. Sofia learned that Alex was a businessman in town on a rare trip outside the city. He spoke of his work with a sense of duty, but there was a hint of weariness in his voice. He listened patiently as she told him about her life in the small town, about her dreams of opening her own bakery one day. Her eyes sparkled with passion as she spoke, and he found himself captivated by her enthusiasm. He didn't seem to mind the simplicity of her world, the stark contrast to his own. In fact, he seemed to find it refreshing, a welcome change from the hustle and bustle of city life. In fact, she sensed a quiet fascination in his eyes, as if he envied the peace she seemed to carry within her. It was a peace he had long forgotten, lost in the chaos of his own world. As they walked together, the connection between them grew stronger. They were two worlds apart, yet in that moment, they felt closer than ever. The sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the small town. It was a perfect ending to an unexpected meeting, a moment they would both cherish. They stood close together, the silence between them comfortable and filled with unspoken promises. It was the beginning of something new, something neither of them had anticipated. Sofia felt a sense of hope she hadn't felt in a long time. Maybe, just maybe, this stranger could become a part of her world, and Alex, for the first time in years, felt a sense of peace. He had found something he didn't even know he was looking for. As they walked away together, their worlds didn't seem so far apart anymore. They had found a common ground, a place where their hearts could meet. The cottage stood as a silent witness to their meeting, its warm light glowing softly in the dusk. It was a symbol of new beginnings, a place where two worlds had come together. Under the starry night sky, they knew that this was just the beginning. Their journey had only just begun, and they were ready to face it together. The storm raged for 3 days, trapping Alex in Sofia's small world. He quickly adapted to the slower pace of life, helping her with chores, sharing stories, and listening with genuine interest to her hopes and dreams. He seemed to find a strange comfort in the routine of their days. They walked along the windswept beach, the crashing waves mirroring the turbulent emotions stirring within them. They shared meals by the crackling fire, his laughter filling the small cottage with warmth. Sofia found herself drawn to his quiet strength, his sharp wit, and the unexpected vulnerability he revealed in fleeting moments.
You have a gift, Sofia. A way of seeing the beauty in everything.
It's just a hobby.
Don't ever say that. Your art, your kindness, your spirit, they're extraordinary.
His words, spoken with such sincerity, touched her deeply. For the first time she allowed herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, he saw something special in her, something she hadn't dared to see in herself. On the 4th day, the storm finally broke. The sun emerged, painting the sky in hues of gold and pink. The storm had been relentless, battering the small village with its fury, but now, as the clouds parted, there was a sense of calm and renewal in the air. Alex received word that his car was fixed. It had been a long wait, and the news brought a mix of relief and sadness. He had grown fond of the place and the people, especially Sofia. A bittersweet feeling settled over Sofia. She had known this day would come, but it didn't make it any easier. The days they spent together had been filled with laughter, shared stories, and a connection she hadn't felt in years. As she helped him pack his belongings, each item she placed in the suitcase felt like a piece of her heart being tucked away. She tried to keep her emotions in check, but it was a losing battle. He stood in the doorway, the weight of the moment pressing down on both of them. The memories of their time together flashed through his mind, making it hard to say goodbye. His expression a mixture of gratitude and something else she couldn't quite decipher. It was as if he wanted to say more, but the words were caught in his throat.
Thank you, Sofia, for everything. His voice was thick with emotion, and he hoped she understood the depth of his gratitude.
It was my pleasure, Alex. She tried to smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. The words felt inadequate to express what she truly felt.
He reached out, his hand trembling slightly. The connection they shared was undeniable, and this simple gesture spoke volumes, his fingers brushing lightly against her cheek. It was a tender moment, filled with unspoken words and emotions that neither of them could fully articulate.
I won't forget you, I promise. His voice was firm, but there was a hint of sadness that betrayed his true feelings.
And with that, he was gone, disappearing into the sunshine, leaving behind a void that Sofia knew would be hard to fill. The warmth of the sun felt cold against her skin as she watched him walk away, leaving her standing there with a heart full of unshed tears and a head full of memories. The silence that followed was deafening, a stark contrast to the vibrant moments they had shared. The days that followed were quiet, the village returning to its usual rhythm. But for Sofia, everything felt different. The absence of Alex was a constant reminder of what she had lost, the silence of her cottage deafening after the sound of his laughter. Every corner of the house held a memory, making it hard for her to move on. Sofia threw herself into her work, trying to distract herself from the emptiness she felt. The bakery had always been her sanctuary, and now it was her refuge from the pain. Baking until her hands ached, the repetitive motions providing a temporary escape from her thoughts. The smell of fresh bread filled the air, a small comfort in her time of sorrow, trying to fill the void left by his absence. Each loaf of bread, each pastry she made was a small step towards healing, even if it didn't feel that way at the moment. She knew it was foolish to hope for more. Their worlds were too different, and the chances of their paths crossing again were slim. But still, a part of her couldn't help but dream. He was a man from a different world, a world of luxury and fast-paced living. She was a simple baker in a quiet village, their lives as different as night and day. A fleeting storm that had swept through her life, leaving behind a trail of memories and emotions that she would carry with her forever, leaving an indelible mark on her soul. As she looked out into the distance, she knew that life would go on, but she would never be the same. The storm had changed her, and she would carry its lessons with her always.